Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all my Uria, Lord of Searing Flames, Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for December 2020. Been wanting to focus individually on the different Sacred Beast monsters and their own specific decks. I want to start with Uria first, being the more interesting of the three for sure, with the individual playstyles. Uria focuses on having different continuous traps as its initial setup for the Tribute Summon, and also powering this card up with the amount of different continuous traps you have in your graveyard. So the more and more trap lineup we have in the deck make this card the more of a true setup for a powerhouse with all the different cards we have. And its new trap card it received in the Sacred Beast structure deck, Hyperblaze, just helps for, setting up even more consistency with this card as a whole. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So being a Uria, Lord of Searing Flames deck, you really want to focus on this card being your main go-to card. So we're running 3 Uria, Lord of Searing Flames. What's very interesting about this one is a Pyro monster, so also a Fire attribute, but most of its support focuses on the Fiend type monster. It cannot be normal summoned or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by sending 3 face-up traps you control to the graveyard. This card gains 1,000 attack for each continuous trap in your graveyard, and once per turn you can target one set spell or trap your opponent controls, destroy that target, and neither player can activate spell or trap cards in response to this effect's activation. So with this, the more continuous traps you have in your graveyard, the more strong this card will become, and also needing continuous traps to obviously tribute summon this card out onto the field basically. But like I said before, the card Hyperblaze makes it that much easier to get this card out, so we'll go over this card when we get to the traps, which will be very soon because we run a lot of traps in this deck altogether with a very, very low monster and spell count, but still 3 Uria since it is your main go-to boss monster in the deck. I also run 3 Dark Beckoning Beasts with this card. When it's normal summon, you can add 1 Uria or Hamon or Ravael from your, or 1 card that specifically lists these cards and its text from your deck to your hand, except for Dark Beckoning Beast. And you can only use this effect of Dark Beckoning Beast once per turn. And during your main phase, you can normal summon 1 Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense in addition to your normal summoner set. So with this card, you basically have your setup for your Dark Summoning Beast or searching out your Hyperblaze or your Uria to your hand from your deck. So it's a great search and setup card for sure, using this card for that playstyle setup. So you definitely want 3 of this. It's just going to be your go-to normal summon along with your Dark Summoning Beast, which we are also running 2 of. You can tribute this card to special summon 1 Uria from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning condition. Also, monsters you control cannot attack for the rest of this turn, except for Dark Summoning Beast once per turn. And you can also banish this card from your graveyard to add 1 Uria, Hamon, or Ravael from your deck to your hand. So with this card, you have the search power for adding it with Dark Summoning Beast, then being able to special summon Uria that much easier, ignoring its summoning condition. So with this, you have another monster option to go into Uria aside from just its trap setup and summon. So with this card, it's just great for the search because you run multiple Urias in the deck as well, and be able to just go off of Dark Summoning Beast into this card into your Uria altogether. For more search power, I also run 3 Tour Guide from the Underworld. Now this one, I go for this one mostly for its search target, which after running 3 Tour Guide, you special summon a level 3 Fiend monster from your deck to the field, and it cannot be used as a synchro material. But that doesn't matter at all with this deck. What matters with the Tour Guide is the fact that we're running 2 Sangan. With this card, if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you add 1 monster with 1,500 or less attack from your deck to your hand, but you cannot activate cards or effects with the name of that card for the rest of this turn, and you can only use this effect of Sangan once per turn. So with this card, you have search for any of the cards we spoke of in the deck, including Uria, because unlike Hamon and Ravael, this card does not have any attack, so it's easily able to search out and use, or Dark Summoning Beast, or even your Dark Beckoning Beast. I think I was getting the names mixed up there. So Sangan's a great search power for sure, just to summon out with your Tour Guide, but we'll go over the play I prefer with this card at the end of the video. For that is it for the monsters. Like I said, we're running a pretty low monster count. As for the spells, I run 2 Fallen Paradise. Your opponent cannot target Uria with in the monster zone with card effects, and also while you control them, if you control Uria, Hamon, Ravael, or Armityle, you can draw 2 cards. You can only use this effect of Fallen Paradise once per turn. So it's my spell of choice in the deck, just for that easy setup of drawing more and more traps for you to either protect your monsters or stop your opponent's plays, or even just summon out Uria onto the field. For the one-ofs for these spells, I run 1 Terraforming and 1 Foolish Burial. Terraforming to search out the Fallen Paradise, because I don't want to run too many of this card. It's great just for that one setup, but you don't get any extra benefits having multiples of this, so they can really stop you in your tracks for your other plays you may want to go into. But Foolish Burial, you can set up your Dark Summoning Beast or even your Dark Beckoning Beast for all the different plays you may want to do with these cards. Most of the time you'll go for the Dark Summoning Beast, obviously, with the Foolish Burial, though. And that is it for the spells as well. Now we get on to the immense trap lineup that I run in the deck, with the first one being Hyperblaze, running 3 of this card in the deck to special summon Uria, Lord of Searing Flames, using its own procedure. You can also use face down traps you control, which definitely helps, because having to use, continuous traps was definitely a difficult lineup to set up, but gives us more of an option with this card now with all the normal traps we can run in the deck. And once per battle, when an attack is declared involving a Uria, Lord of Searing Flames, you can send 1 trap from your hand or deck to the graveyard. Its attack and defense become equal to the number of face-up trap cards on the field and in the graveyard times 1,000 for the rest of this turn. And once per turn, you can discard 1 card to add to your hand or special summon 1 Uria, Lord of Searing Flames, ignoring its summoning conditions. So you want 3 of this card. Once you get this card set up on the field, it's that much easier to get your boss monster in the deck onto the field and set up with a true attack power, which, in late game enough, you can set this card up with attack over 10,000, or at least even attack to surpass Armatile with this deck altogether. So you want 3 of this card to easily search it out. You can also use your Dark Beckoning Beast, because it has Uria specifically listed in its card text, to search this card out. For the additional traps we are running in the deck, I still like the 3 Infinite Impermanence. It's just an easy trap to set up in the graveyard after activating it from your hand. If you don't have Infinite Impermanence, you can try cards like Wabaku or Threatening Roar or Mirror Force or even Drowning Mirror Force in the deck, since there are a good number of times where you don't have any monsters on the field with these cards. But that's once again player preference, because a normal trap spot, I would say, just needs to be placed in here, because we can run a good amount of them, as I said before, with Hyperblaze being able to just power up Uria to, high amounts and not have to rely too much on continuous traps, because you can just set them on the field and then tribute them off for your Uria. And I also run 3 Storming Mirror Force. Once again, just a great way to stop your opponent's monsters by returning them to the hand. And you just want more and more cards that can easily be set up to basically enter the graveyard that much faster. So activating multiple Storming Mirror Forces, stopping your opponent's monsters is all the better, because then you can summon out Uria, destroy maybe the spell or trap they have set up to stop it, and then attack for a pretty high attack number against your opponent also. And I still do run some of the continuous traps, just so we have the option to tribute them out if we need be for Uria, and also just to power it up normally. Aside from Hyperblaze, I run 3 Fiendish Chain, just the, let's say the effect veiler of the deck, a monster effect negation, also stopping it from attacking. And once again, once it's face up, if it is dead on the field, let's say your opponent uses the monster for a, extra deck summon, and this card usually, leaves the field when that card is destroyed, you can stay on the field and still be used for the tribute of Uria, which makes it all the better for sure. I also run 3 There Can Only Be One. Each player can only control 1 monster of each type. If a player controls 2 or more of the same type, they must send the same cards to the graveyard. So what's great about this is if you have the 1 Fiend type monster on the field, it doesn't really, mess you up with Uria, because it's a Pyro monster. I was about to say Fire monster, basically the same thing. But with this card, it's great for that setup. If you need to get your Tour Guide Sangan play off, just don't activate this until that effect resolves. But it can still stop a good amount of different plays your opponent may try to do. For some of the lower numbers for the traps in the deck, I also run 2 Anti-Spell Fragrance. Now this one especially for the fact that we don't run that many spells. We set up our field spell, use a Foolish Burial, and then that's pretty much it. This can stop our opponent's plays for sure, and then all we have are our trap cards and our Uria to rely on. So I like 2 of this in the deck just as another good continuous trap option, and also just, once again, a great way to stop your opponent. I also run 2 Bottomless Trap Hole, another great way to stop your opponent's monster and destroy them on the field and set up more traps in your graveyard for you to use for all of your different plays. And also 2 Heavy Storm Duster. Well, I didn't want to run any other spells. I want like Twin Twister or Mystical Space Typhoon or Cosmic Cyclone. Heavy Storm Duster can easily destroy my opponent's back row and then give me another trap set up in the graveyard for Hyperblaze. And for the one-ofs, I run 1 Summon Limit and 1 Metaverse. You don't really summon too much in the deck. Most of the time, if you have your trap set up, you can just go for the Uria play. If you're stuck on Sangan and Tour Guide, that could be your 2 summons right then and there, and then just leave them on the field for your opponent to send them to the graveyard. But once again, once you summon out Uria, that should be your go-to play. And Metaverse just searches out our Fallen Paradise field spell also. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. Now, for the extra deck, we don't really go into it much. Most of the targets we'll summon out are cards we use for Tour Guide and Sangan. Because Sangan can't be used as an Xyz material, it has to leave the field for its graveyard search effect. So we're mostly running Link monsters to summon out with it. So 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Barricade Board Blocker, 1 Landfornicus, 1 Heat of the Fire Charmer, 1 Master King Archfiend, 1 Union Carrier, 1 Cherubini, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice, 1 Proxy Dragon, and also 1 Clara and Rushka, which I'll go over this play for this one specific Link 1 monster at the end as well. And for the Xyz monsters, I just run the 1 Leviair, the Sea Dragon. When you can still make the Xyz plays with your Tour Guide and Sangan, and can help to get some of your banished monsters back to the field for you to use. But once again, it's situational. That's why I'm only running 1 Xyz monster and plenty of Link monsters to go into. As for the go-to plays, summoning out Uria in your Hyper Blaze is pretty straightforward once you set this up, and then just having all the different traps in your graveyard for the power boost to swing into your opponent is your main go-to win condition. But for the Sangan plays, which revolve around Tour Guide and Sangan, you'll summon out your Tour Guide and then special summon Sangan, and you'll want to go for the Link summon, which I spoke of, because then whichever one you want to go to, you can go to the Barricade Board Blocker to recycle your field spell, or Cerberus or Phoenix to destroy your opponent's cards, discarding other cards to the graveyard for you to use as well, especially with your Nightmare cards being able to discard cards like, let's say, your Dark Summoning Beast to the graveyard for more search power is that much more useful as well. But also with your Clara and Rushka, if you set Sangan on the field, let's say you open it up, you can link with this card since Clara and Rushka just needs 1 normal summon or set monster. Still getting these search off for your Sangan using this if you don't have Tour Guide to rely on. And searching out, once again, the most important card in the deck, which is your Uria, Lord of Searing Flames. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Once again, I'm going to be focusing on the other individual Sacred Beasts as well. Raphael seems a little more easier to focus on since we can just use the Fiend support along with the new form of Raphael we got from the structure deck. Hamon, I'm going to see if I'm going to want to go down the Crystal Beast road, which is definitely one of the easier ways to summon out Hamon, or see if there's any other options available to me with the different continuous spells we can use to summon out Hamon to the field. But until next time, once again, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.